Welcome, and thank you for attending the New York State GIS Association's April Professional Development Webinar. I'm Melissa Albino-Hegeman, the co-chair of the Professional Development Committee. I'd like to welcome Kathy Kittle and Scott Donnelly from the Department of Environmental Conservation. They will be talking about the DECinfo Locator. Kathy Kittle is the Director of the Bureau of Digital Services for the Office of Communication Services at the Department of Environmental Conservation. She spearheaded the development of DECinfo Locator and is integral to its continued success. Additionally, Kathy oversees NYSDEC's website and social media presence. Scott Donnelly leads the Office of Communication Services web development team. He joined DEC in February of 2019, in part to help with the DECinfo Locator project. The DECinfo Locator is an interactive map that lets you access DEC documents and public data about the environmental quality of specific sites in New York State, as well as outdoor recreation information. With more than 65 data layers available, this is the first application that shows both environmental quality monitoring and natural resource information together in one place. Unfortunately, we had issues with the recording and it didn't properly record the first minute of Kathy's intro, but we're going to catch up with her going over the project goals. Thank you.
Information. We started off with an environmental quality focus. That's one side of our agency. And the other side of our agency, which is the outdoor recreation opportunities, that was the other side of the house that also wanted to be represented in this project. And what was really great was that our goal was to not only increase transparency, but make sure that access to documents and data happens. Melissa, everybody okay with hearing me so far?
It looks like we're good with sound. One person is having trouble seeing the presentation, so if anybody else is having problems with that, please drop it in the chat. And I also neglected to mention we will record this so people can look back at it later.
Great, thank you. So we had basically one map and we wanted to create two unique views. As I described, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, we're actually one of 5 super agencies in the United States. Most states actually separate their environmental quality from their natural resource side. But in New York State, we actually have them combined into one agency, which makes for a very complex agency. So combining that information and presenting it in such a way, we wanted to make sure it was very clear to the public. So you'll see I have arrows pointing to 2 tabs we have: environmental quality and outdoor activities. And under environmental quality, we have an accordion of categories of data. And DECinfo Locator for now has more than 66 data layers. We keep adding more and more layers, so the number keeps changing almost every other month or so. But in the environmental quality section, we have permits and registrations, environmental cleanup, environmental monitoring, public involvement, environmentally sensitive areas, and legal information. In terms of the categories, for permits and registrations, we have more than 20 different data layers in that section. So you will see a scroll bar if the list is quite long. In the outdoor activities section, we actually have them grouped by land-related activities, campgrounds, trails, and water-related activities. And again, you'll see that scroll bar if there's a very long list of layers. We also have several reference layers, and we keep adding to those as well. Reference layers include things such as county boundaries, the DEC offices, and that's the little buildings you see on the map right now. Also the DEC regional boundaries and some other information. So under environmental quality, like I said, we have about 20 different data layers on permits and registrations. Environmental cleanup, those are really our environmental sites, the remediation sites, the brownfield sites, the state Superfund sites, usually areas that have been contaminated by past industrial uses and then are cleaned up. And that's a very active and popular layer for us. We also have environmental monitoring, and that includes things such as aquatic biological monitoring, air monitoring, which gives us real-time data, and several other types of monitoring. Public involvement, that includes things like climate change, smart communities, potentially environmental justice areas. And then environmentally sensitive areas, we have regulated tidal wetlands and our critical environmental areas. And then last but certainly not least, legal information is always a hot topic. We have consent orders and hearings and permits under there. Under outdoor activity layers, we have 15 different land-related activities, and those are our major lands, our wildlife management areas, hunting, etc., hiking. Campgrounds, I'm going to show you a cool feature we have for our campgrounds layer. It doesn't exist anywhere else in other tools on the line or even with our vendor that makes our reservations. So I'm pretty excited about our campgrounds. We have 7 different trail layers that you can turn on or turn off, things like mountain biking trails or horseback riding trails, etc. And then we have water-related activities, and that's our fishing and our boating and shell fishing, etc. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about our core activities. These are pretty common in most GIS, ArcGIS applications. You have your zoom in, your zoom out, our home button. A recent addition that we had was an active layer window, and that was something that from our usability testing and our feedback survey, we got a lot of people saying, hey, you know, I start adding many, many layers, you know, one mapping tool that has 65 layers, I forget what all these icons mean. And I'm going to show you what the active layer window looks like. And then our reset. If you're like our commissioner, he loved to turn on so many different layers that it looked like a bunch of Skittles threw up all over the page. So we choose the reset button so that he can actually get started all over again. We have a really robust help section about DECinfoLocator. Actually brings you back to our webpage. We have a getting started video. Also our terms and conditions, what our layers mean and how often are they updated, as well as the accuracy of them. And then a contact us. And the contact us is really important for our staff because we monitor a generic email box that we get questions from the public. Hey, I'm having trouble with this, or I would really like to see a data layer that includes such and such. And that's one way that people can tell us our data layer needs to be fixed or they would like a new data layer. And as with most maps, you can change the base map. We keep it as topographical to start with because for New York State, it's easier to kind of orient yourself with the topographical features, the Adirondack Park and the Catskill Park, et cetera. But you can certainly, as you zoom in a little bit closer, go to Street View and Satellite View with labels, and you can really zero in on where some of these, say, facilities are, these permitted facilities, et cetera. So the active layer window, you can see here on my PowerPoint slide, it'll give you a list in the window of all the different layers you have activated. And then if I was to turn one off over in my legend, it would actually disappear from my active layer window. And what's nice is that you can actually print that and get your printable legend for any map views that you print off. So the way to use DECinfoLocator, you certainly want to search. That's an option. Zooming is also great. We started to add this little zoom in to activate layer, and this little help box has been really good. When we first went live with this actually last July, people kept saying, I'm clicking on everything, all your boxes, and your map is not working. It's broken. You guys did a lousy job. What's going wrong? What's going wrong with your application? And it was really that they didn't follow the directions to zoom in far enough so that the name turns black in the legend. They forgot to zoom in a little bit closer. So by zooming in, you can actually zoom in by the buttons. You can just use your scroll bar, but you'll see the names actually turn black in the legend when the layer becomes active and that little box goes away. And then the icons will appear. Searching, I really find is the most valuable unless you're really good at zeroing in on a portion of the state. We have a pretty robust search feature, and it is out of the box from Esri. but you can search by addresses, municipalities, place names, counties. The one thing is, because it is out of the box from Esri, you will get search results for other places, such as if I was looking for Orange County, I might come up with Orange County, California, as opposed to New York. We've been trying to narrow that down further, but you certainly want to pick the areas in New York State to focus in on. So when you actually zero into an area of the map and the icons appear, you will actually see the little pop-up when you click on an icon. And what's really great is that you can actually, by accessing that link, actually go to that particular database record right into our registry. So here's our mining database, and when you click on that link, you actually go right to that record in the database. And that record has lots of information right then and there. But if you want further information, you can actually access the facility permit, any modifications to that permit, any documents that are associated with that particular facility. So here we have a Title V air facility, and you can see there's actually 3 links on the pop-up box. What I love about this data layer itself, we have some information already in the pop-up box. So this tells you, in terms of pollutants, how many tons of VOCs, volatile organic compounds, can this facility emit in a year? How many tons of CO2, et cetera. So you can get a little snapshot of information. But if you really want to delve in deeper and be able to access the permit for this facility, you would click on that permit link, and you can actually pull up the document on your computer and be able to download it and save the permit for this facility. There was no other way for you to get access to this information unless you filed a FOIL request for our agency, or you did a lot of searching on our website. And if you've ever been to the DEC website, you know that it is very large and it is very complex and difficult to navigate. And I can say that because I also manage the DEC website. So it is very complex, and it's because we're a very complex agency. Now, if a facility actually ties in with multiple data layers, here's a cement plant nearby our central office. It's the Ravenna cement plant. So it has a Title V air facility permit. It's a major emitter of air pollutants. But you'll see 1 of 2 records circled in the screen there. When I click the arrow and go to the next record, you'll see it also has a wastewater permit from our facility. And again, if I click on the permit, I can actually pull up the document. If it is a facility that has lots and lots of documents, you will actually get a folder that will list all the documents available to you. And this happens a lot with our environmental remediation sites. So here's a screenshot from Hoosick Falls. And there's a consent order there. There's a fact sheet. There's multiple reports on investigation reports and characterization reports of the site. There's work plans, et cetera. So it pulls all this information together, all the documents in one folder tied to that facility. So next I want to talk a little bit about some of the tools we have, and people who love to work with maps, these tools are really cool for them. The first tool I want to talk about is the area tool. So we're going to choose our layer. So in this case, I chose the MSGP, the multi-sector general permits, and the storm sewers. So the area measurement, we click on the tools, and those are right below the search feature in the left-hand legend. We're going to click on that first tool, which is the measurement. We're going to choose our unit. So in here, I chose acres. We're going to draw the polygon by just clicking on the map and continue clicking. Double click on your starting point to close your polygon. And then you'll see in the legend, you'll see how many acres that particular parcel is. And that's really important for, say, environmental cleanup areas or other facility types of permits that we want to see what's in there. Another one is a distance between 2 points, and that's our little ruler tool. You can measure the distance here. Again, it's 3.84 miles from one facility to the other. This is my favorite tool, the Nearby Me tool. And really, because we built DECinfo Locator for the general public, you know, I would want to approach this mapping tool saying, okay, what's around my neighborhood? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to select the Nearby Me tool. It's the little arrow. You're going to select your radius in terms of miles, and we have it set from 1 to 10 miles. We're going to click on the map to actually set that circle and find our radius. And then we can expand the layer listing to see the facilities. I'm going to show you what this looks like. So here in the legend, it will tell me for the layers that I chose, all the different facilities that are within my 2 mile radius of my my house. And when I expand the listing here for the MS4s and the multi-sector permits, I expanded the multi-sector, and you can see Syracuse Teal Avenue plant. When I click on that in the legend, it will actually highlight that icon in my circle, and I can click on that pop-up box and I can get my information right there. So what's really nice is that I can print that list of areas and facilities within my radius, and then I can also zero in on one that perhaps has either been in the news or that I'm particularly interested because maybe my neighbor was talking about it, and then get some more information and get the permit about it, etc. So I want to shift gears a little bit to our outdoor activity tab. The most, I guess, popular areas are our land-related activities and our water-related activities. Again, you want to search or you want to zoom in. Here I have the DEC lands layer checked, and I zeroed into our Stony Pond State Forest that happens to be over in Madison County in the central area. When I click on the more information, I actually go to the web page about that state forest, and it'll tell me all the things I'm able to do on there. I can actually do cross-country skiing, I can go fishing, I can go horseback riding, there's hunting allowed, etc. And there's lots of robust information on that particular site. When I go to the campgrounds, this is one of my favorite features. So when I go to the campgrounds, I can zero in on the campgrounds. I start to see some tent sites. I zoom in a little bit further. I can actually click on the site that I'm interested in camping at. When I click on that pop-up, I can actually see a picture of that particular campsite. It gives me some basic information, but when I go camping, I love to see what my site's going to look like. We're actually working with our IT GIS unit, and they are going to be expanding this, where we'll actually be able to see a carousel of images, and I can click on the image and actually see a blow-up picture of that particular site, that view. And that really allows me to say, wow, that's a site I really want to go to, or that's not going to be what my family likes, and I want to choose a different site. I have to tell you, the collaboration that we've had with our Office of Information Technology Services GIS team has been amazing through this entire project. They've been with us from the start to finish, and this is probably one of the smoothest projects we have ever had with ITS. We have been able to collaborate on going live within our time frame last year. And, you know, we started this project in September 2018. We went live in July 2019 with 55 data layers. And we've added much more functionality and layers since then. To me, this is the really powerful part of the DECinfo Locator. As I explained before, DEC is a very complex agency. We have the environmental quality side of the agency and our environmental or outdoor activities and natural resource side. And getting the two sides together is sometimes challenging, even physically getting them together. But really, if you are interested in outdoor activities and fishing and wildlife viewing, etc., you need to know how clean is that water? How expansive is that particular DEC land? Is there any environmental hazards that are nearby? So here's an example I have where on the left-hand side of your screen, I pulled up the boat launch site, and I went to Oneida Lake, and I saw that there's a boat launch nearby because I want to go fishing. I can click on the boat launch link. I can get some information and some detailed directions on how to get there. Gives me also a little bit of advisory information. You know, we want to make sure that people keep the waters clean, so make sure you clean and dry your boat. But then I want to know, how clean is Oneida Lake? Is it a place where I really want to bring my family? Am I going to have a good experience there? Are there lots of fish there because the water's cleaner? And I can actually look at the environmental monitoring for that water body, and I can pull up the fact sheet, and it'll tell me minor impacts to that lake means, okay, so maybe warm water fishing won't be as good there because those type of fish are a little bit more sensitive to environmental contaminants, but the cold water fishing will be good. And that's what our minor impact fact sheet will tell you. So it's the first time that we can actually bring both sides of the agency together. Another example I've used in other presentations, if I like to go hiking up in the Adirondacks and in the Piseco area, I want to go the Northville Trail, I'll pull up those hiking trails. I can actually pull up the real-time, right to the minute air quality at our Piseco air monitoring station and see if the air quality is bad and I have asthma, I may choose not to go hiking that day. So there's a lot of experiences and examples where you'd want to get both the environmental quality side and the outdoor activities information together in one place. So I want to talk a little bit about our web content. We do have a web page about the environmental locator with some great help information. I'm going to show that to you in a second. You launch it from that green call out box at the very top. And then we have a short feedback survey on our website as well. The DECinfo Locator's webpage is really great because when you go to it, it'll tell you a little description about the data layer. So for this example, I'm highlighting the Air Title V, they call it the ATV, not the thing you ride, but the Air Title V facilities permit. You can see the icon there, and then there's a little description about it. If there's more information that's very detailed, we link to it from our data layer description. It'll tell us in that third column what information you expect to find with that data layer. So you'll get the issued permit and maybe a permit review report. And then it tells you how often that data layer is updated. So some of our data layers are updated as needed. Others are updated on an annual basis. And certain data layers are actually updated daily. So if there is new information that comes out about a Title V permit, or say an environmental cleanup site, there's a new fact sheet or a new consent order for that particular site, that information actually gets pushed out overnight and goes into our repository. And then from our repository, it actually gets promoted and accessed through DECinfo Locator. So it's we really like the data layers that are updated automatically because there's no extra work for those. Some upcoming enhancements, we're always looking at more data layers. Some of the things that we've been asked for recently are some more of our waste management facilities. We have active landfills right now, but people have asked us for the composting facilities and the waste transfer sites, et cetera. We're also looking at seeing if we can make maybe our environmental spills database available this way. They have 18,000 spills in that database, so that's going to be quite an undertaking. We're also looking at ways that we can always optimize for mobile. We have about 50% of our users right now coming from mobile devices. DECinfo Locator works really great on a desktop, really great on a laptop. On a phone, it will work, but I will tell you, it is it's really tough if you have to pinch and zoom, pinch and zoom, pinch and zoom. But we do have a help sheet that is specified for mobile users. And if you are a phone user, we recommend that you look at that help. In terms of downloadable data sets, they're not downloadable from DECinfo Locator. And that's what a lot of GIS users want. They want, hey, I want that data layer because I want to use it and mash it up with something else. Most of them, though not all of them, most of them are available on the OpenNY data portal. And a majority of them are also available on the NYS GIS clearinghouse. So here's my contact information and Scott's. We do have a mailbox, DECinfoLocator at dec.ny.gov. And that's where we ask the public to contact us if they see a data issue where there's, hey, I know there's a dry cleaner down the street from me and they're not showing up on your map. That's one way that people are able to actually find errors in the data, and then that's something that we can correct. Or we're also getting new requests that way for DECinfo Locator. So I want to jump now to the website for a second. Okay, so this is our webpage that relates to DECinfo Locator, and I got there by right now on our DEC homepage. If you scroll down under popular topics, there's a link there for DECinfo Locator and other maps. So when I click on DECinfo Locator, I go to our webpage. This is how I would actually launch the map. We also have a specific outdoor recreation link that is available, some help information, and here we go, fact sheet that we have available. It's a two-page, two-sided, really quick sheet for you. Here's that mobile help document that I described to you as well. This feedback survey, we've had more than 100 people take the feedback survey, and so far the reviews have been very positive. Like I said, it was helpful for us when we noticed some of the responses back from the public where they were saying, oh, my goodness, we cannot get your map to work. And that's when we saw that people could not actually find, they did not zoom in far enough. Okay, so I want to go a little bit to DECinfo Locator map itself. When you first get there, there's actually our quick terms and conditions.
Hey, Kathy.
Yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we are having some audio issues with everybody who called in.
Got it.
I don't want anyone to miss this good stuff here.
Okay.
Those that called in, if any of you still have audio, if you could let me know in the chat.
All right, so I just heard that nobody, Scott just told me that nobody on the call-in number can hear us. Okay.
All right, and somebody on the computer audio just lost everything.
Oh my goodness. All right, let me.
That's not good.
No, that's not good at all.
All right, it seems like a real mixed bag here.
Okay.
On who's having problems and who's not.
We apologize for that. We did have everything working, so I don't know what the issue is. I'm going to just make sure I'm sharing my screen again. Just share my screen. Okay, hopefully everyone is seeing that now.
Just give it a minute. It's still loading on my end.
Okay. Everybody should be seeing my terms and conditions.
Yes, I can see that. It looks like there's a lot of people who can see it as well.
Okay.
At the end of this, you have, could you share the slides?
Sure.
For anybody who might have been cutting in and out?
Yep, absolutely.
And then, like I said, we're recording it as well, so
okay, great.
People can go back.
So when you come to DECinfo Locator, you just have to click the agree and continue. You can choose not to show this message again. We just want to make sure people are familiar with how to get the terms and conditions. So again, this is how we would access our map. This is where I would zoom in. If I click one of the facility layers, I get that little pop-up, and I have to zoom in or search for a particular spot in order to have the layer activate. And you'll see the little blue box disappeared and my icon will open, and that's where I can get my information from. We are able to deep link to certain data sets, which I find really helpful. So for environmental remediation sites, all of the cleanup sites in the state, there's lots of them, and they're all over the map usually. So when you get to certain areas, it's nice to be able to have a link that would bring you right to this particular, say, location, and be able to open it for you on your map, and it will center it in your map for you. The other thing that we have available is a general outdoor recreation link. So when I go to, say, our main hiking page, we have a link here that says Find Your Adventure. And when I click on the DECinfo Locator, it will actually open up the map, and we'll have the outdoor activities tab open by default. This was something our map people who use outdoor recreation a lot, we used to have a mapper called SLIM, State Land Management System, or State Land Interactive Mapper, excuse me. And that was something that they used in order to find outdoor activities. We replaced it with the DECinfo Locator because you can get so much more information out of the locator than you could ever get out of SLIM. And now we have it so that it'll open outdoor activities by default. And you can see I can choose hunting areas and wildlife management areas. And when I zoom in, you will start to see the icons appear. There's my wildlife management areas. And what I find funny is our hunting icons all point towards Vermont. So it looks like we're attacking Vermont. But I want to show you the campgrounds. We also have this data layer working for the campground. So from all of our campground pages, when I click on DECinfo Locator for a map, I click on that, it will open up the DECinfo Locator directly to that campground already zeroed in, all right? And then I can click on it and I can see one of my tent sites, and if there was a photo available, they would actually have a photo in the pop-up in the pop-up. Okay, so that's a little bit about DECinfo Locator. It's something that we're really excited about because we're continuing to add to it with every single data layer request that we get. We look at it, we see, is it available? Is it something that the public would be interested in? And is it something that we can actually link to additional information with? Because we certainly want to provide those extra documents, those extra pieces of information that may be very difficult to find on our website, but can be much easier to find using DECinfo Locator. Okay, so I guess I'll open up to questions at this point, Melissa.
Yes, that sounds good. We're still having sporadic problems with audio, unfortunately, but we do have some questions we can go over. So the first one was, at what point does an industrial feature or facility, when is it entered into the DECinfo Locator database? Is it when they apply for the permit, when it's approved?
Well, that's a great question.
Timeline.
Yep, so that's a great question. Let me, I'm just gonna reset my map so that we can start fresh. So when does it actually appear? If there's a new air facility registration, there's about 6,000 of these in the state, which is why we have it set at a very zoomed in level. Otherwise, you'll see that certain areas of our state would actually be taken over by air facilities. There's quite a few. I have to keep zooming in because we turn them way down. The moment that it turns or gets added to our database is when a new facility maybe is applying for a permit. Their permit, they will actually be added to the air facility registrations, and those get updated once a year. The Title V's, if it comes online, that actually gets updated. For the environmental cleanup, if there is a remediation site where there's maybe a new cleanup going on in that particular area of the state, that would actually, if there's a consent order, that usually kicks it off, or that actually gets added during the day, and then at 10 o'clock at night that gets pushed out, and then the next morning it'll actually be live for somebody in the community to actually access that information. So hopefully that answered their question.
I think so. Next question. I think you already touched on this a little bit, but it was about downloading the selected GIS data. If you just want, you mentioned that most of it's at the clearinghouse and the open data portal?
Yes. People have asked if they could actually download it from DECinfo Locator. And unfortunately, there is not a download capability at this point. Any data layers that are pretty complete and that we feel really strongly are stuff that the public would want to download and manipulate in another way. We have been encouraging the programs to actually make that data layer available on the OpenNY platform and the New York State GIS Clearinghouse. The Open Data platform, I know, has over 200 data layers that DEC manages on there. I'm not sure about the clearinghouse, but I know that was actually started first. So I would assume that there's probably more on there than there are in the Open Data platform.
Great, Kathy, thanks. The next question is there a way to obtain stream classifications in the DECinfo Locator?
That's a great question. So for, I'm going to just show this functionality for a moment. There is an option to check all and uncheck all. In certain parts of the state, those dots will get very, very dense. Think of New York City and Long Island. There's a lot of cleanup sites down there. It would actually be like, it looks like one big icon because they're overlapping each other. I like to turn on my data layers one at a time. When I uncheck and I maybe check one or I check two, it's not as overwhelming. But checking all will absolutely sometimes blow up your map. So now if let me just uncheck those. So the stream classifications, if I go to environmental monitoring, this is where I can actually look at lakes, reservoirs, estuaries, rivers and streams and shorelines. So I'm going to click on rivers and streams. And when I click on those, you can see that the map gets very busy very quickly. But when I click on that segment of stream, it tells me this is the North Branch, Tuscarora, Lower, and Tribs area. It'll tell me what the priority water listing is, their ID number, what basin, watershed it's in. And then when I click on it, it will actually go to the fact sheet, and that opens it up in another window. So here is the fact sheet for that particular segment of the water body for the stream. And we have the same functionality for estuaries, lakes and rivers, and shorelines. The other tool that we have is the aquatic biological monitoring and the aquatic toxicity monitoring. When I click on those icons, you can actually click on, this is a biological monitoring. And again, I can get the biological monitoring fact sheet for that particular section of the stream, as well as go to the biological monitoring webpage for some additional background information. The toxicity is a little bit different. That has different data, and that's a different type of fact sheet, but it'll tell me that this section of the stream, the sediment assessment is moderately toxic, and the pore water assessment is toxic as of 2017. So it gives you some great information in the pop-up, and then if I want to take a deeper dive, I can actually open up that fact sheet for the Troopsburg Creek and be able to find out what that information is.
Great, thank you, Kathy. The next question is, has there been any thought to integrating this mapper with the Environmental Resources Mapper or the Seeker EAF Mapper?
Okay, so great question. DEC has quite a few mappers. Let me see if I can go to that webpage. So we have quite a few interactive maps, And this is a short listing of some of the ones that we have available. So we have the DECinfo Locator map. We have the New York HABs, which is harmful algal blooms. They have a separate mapper. We'll actually be integrating that one this coming season so that, again, if you want to, say, go boating or fishing, you want to pull up all the fishing spots, you'd like to know where the HABs are, the harmful algal blooms in that area, because I really don't want to go fishing in an area that has an active harmful algal bloom going on right now, because maybe my dog is going to jump in the water and I don't want my dog to get sick, and it's not a very attractive area, so I don't want to go there with my boat. So we're going to be integrating the HABs mapper into DECinfo Locator. They'll also have their standalone, so if you only want to see HABs, that'll be available. But it is so powerful to be able to integrate the HABs, harmful algal blooms, with some of the outdoor recreation information. Some of the mappers will actually stay separate by themselves. We have a great mapper, the resource mapper, and the specific Hudson Valley Natural Resource Mapper. Those are very, very specific types of information. They go into great detail, like what's the percentage of hardwood forest? What's the percentage of the littoral zone? And it really goes into very detailed information about the gradations of ecosystems. So those kind of tools are very important for land use planning and for conservation planning boards. So those mappers will probably stay active. Some of the other navigators, like the Environmental Facilities Mapper, that was actually one of our first flagship mappers. And that one we're actually going to be decommissioning because all that information is on the DECinfo Locator plus more. So where we see a real overlap, we're going to decommission the old antiquated mapper and actually stay with DECinfo Locator. If we can integrate another mapper's data set into InfoLocator and it makes sense, then we will do that. But for some of the mappers, like the resource mapper and most likely the EAF mapper, because that one is very specific to filling out the environmental assessment form. That's what EAF stands for. So that mapper will probably stay distinct. The DECinfo Locator is really for the general public who wants to know what's around their area. They're concerned about a site, maybe they heard about it in the news and they want to learn some information, or they want to take it and go do some outdoor recreation. So that's a little bit about the different mappers that we have available.
Great, thank you, Kathy. The last question I see is there a way to report errors or submit corrections to the data layers?
So that is a great, great question. Here in this help section, we have this contact us, and that actually goes to our webpage and it goes to the bottom section. So we have a phone number you can call, 518-402-8013. But we really ask people that if they find errors in the data set to email us, and that email mailbox again is DECinfolocator@dec.ny.gov. That is where we're asking the public to please let us know if you do see an error to report it to us. Because again, my example from before, if I live, say, in a very busy urban area and I know there's a dry cleaner down my corner and they're not showing up on the map, that's one of two things. A, our data is wrong and is missing that information. So DEC needs to correct that, and we get that data error. We go back to our program staff and we say, hey, you know, there's supposed to be a dry cleaner on this corner and it's not showing up. Can you please check your GIS shapefile? Is there something missing? Or this is another great reason why people should tell us if something's either appearing or not appearing. Maybe that dry cleaner is there in the corner, but we don't know about it because they did not apply for the correct registration. So that's one way that we can use to say, hey, our data is correct. Let's go truth check that facility, send maybe an inspector down there and see, is that facility actually permitted? One of the things that we got a lot of questions about when we first kind of piloted this was, oh my goodness, I live in an urban area and look at all those dots, look at all those icons. I'm really afraid to be living there. And our response to the person was, you should be really glad that that dot is on the map. It's because DEC knows about it and we're regulating it. We know what they're allowed to emit, what they're not allowed to emit, and if they're violating their permit, that's something that we can actually take enforcement action on. So that is one thing that in urban areas, you know, we have this little caveat on our website. Why are there so many map icons? Typical urban areas will have a lot of facilities. They'll have a lot of air registration facilities or maybe cleanup sites. And this is one way that the public can maybe feel a little bit better about what information is available, increase that transparency, and they can get that document or that permit all on their own.
All right, Kathy, that was the last question from the chat box, unless anybody else has anything.
I mean, one of the things that we're really trying to do with this particular mapper is increase transparency and provide as much access to DEC information as possible in an easy, user-friendly way. Being able to click on an icon and go to a database link right here in the DER database is much easier than going to find the web page on our website, knowing the site number, looking up an address, and then having to get that information. We're hoping that it reduces the amount of FOIL requests for our agency. We've gotten a lot of anecdotal information so far, but I don't have any hard numbers in terms of how many FOIL requests did not need to be submitted because they were able to find this information already on their own. We're trying to get the word out about this to the general public so that they can know about it, research this information themselves, and be able to download a permit or a consent order in the joy of their home in their pajamas, drinking their cup of coffee, and not have to wait, you know, several weeks or maybe even longer for a FOIL request to be completed through the agency.
We have a mention about your YouTube help video.
Oh,
I don't know if you talked about that in your presentation, that it was good and helpful. So.
Oh, good. I'm glad you liked it. On our main DECinfo Locator page, we do have a link here that says help video on YouTube. And as I indicated, it's a good resource for getting started. It's also available in our map. When you first go to it, there's a link here in the pop-up box that will bring you to the video as well. And then in the help, there's also some getting started information. So the video is available in a couple of places. It's only about 5 minutes long, but it gives you a nice general overview of the different features for DECinfo Locator. And we're actually planning to update it because right now the zoom in alert is not listed in the video. It's listed on all the help information that we have on our webpage. But this zoom in to activate kind of reminder box was a really good addition that our ITS GIS team added, because now people know, oh, I have to keep zooming in, keep zooming in, keep zooming in, keep zooming in until the layer name turns black and the little box goes away. And then I'll be able to see my air facility if there's one in that area. So if you get a chance, I encourage all the listeners today in the webinar to go and try out DECinfo Locator. Again, you can access it from the DEC homepage under popular links. Click here to launch the map. And then please make sure you take our feedback survey. We really have been excited about the feedback that we've gotten. We've gotten some really great new data requests that came through the feedback survey and been able to identify some of the users' issues and then some of their really positive responses to having this mapper available. We're really thrilled. So anytime that you can help spread the word about this, we'd really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Kathy. That looks like all the questions we have now. And they now know where to find you should they have any more.
Yep, feel free to contact us. Again, the phone number is here. The email to the Dropbox is there. If you want to email me directly, you can do so at Kathy, cathy.kittle@dec.ny.gov, and we'll be happy to be able to respond to any questions that you have.
Great, and I apologize again for the technical difficulties with the sound. Unfortunately, Scott was never able to get the audio working correctly, but thank you, Scott, for helping out in the chat.
Yeah,
anyway.
I couldn't have done this project without Scott. And one of the things that I do want to make a call out to, this project, DECinfoLocator, is probably one of the most successful projects that we've done throughout the agency, because we had buy-in. There were more than 15 different divisions, and one of our regions, Region 1, actually contributed, worked on the project team. This was a project that cut across so many different program areas and divisions, and it was so wonderful and rewarding to bring all those people together and all that information together in one place. Before, we were very siloed. You'd have to go to the spills and environmental cleanup area to find that information, but then you wouldn't know, how that spill might be impacting the water quality of that area nearby, and you would not know, oh, there's also an air facility nearby. Oh, and there's also a great hiking place nearby. It was nowhere on our website did all that information come together. And I had to give a big shout out to our project team, to the many people that helped us pilot this across along the way, and also our ITS GIS group, Tim Daly and Barb Cruden and Kathy Jones and Chris O'Connor and Sean O'Keefe and Jerry Colburn. They have been outstanding on this project. So it's a real collaborative project, and I just can't wait for it to continue to expand and get more and more data layers in there, and hopefully address any of the information needs of the public. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathy. And if you've registered, we'll send out an email with links to the recording and the slides when they're available.
Great. Thank you for this opportunity. I hope everybody has a great day.
Yes. Thank you so much, Kathy. Everyone enjoy their weekend.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.